Welcome to the Beau Show, the home of faith, family, and freedom. Recently, the FIFA World Cup kicked off in the country of Qatar, which in and of itself was a tenuous choice of host, considering the number of rights violations that the country has been known for. Saudi Arabia experienced similar tensions during the launch of the Live Golf Tournament, which they entirely fund. This created the notion of sports washing, or boosting the PR of a country through sport. And then there's the issue of Qatar altering the contract of Budweiser just 2 days before the World Cup began. Budweiser and its parent company AB InBev have had a partnership with FIFA since 1986. But FIFA announced that there would be a ban on all sales of alcohol in stadiums just 2 days before the Cup started, after discussions with Qatar. Budweiser pays tens of millions of dollars in exclusive rights to sell beer at the tournament. When Qatar won its bid to host, it agreed to honor the commercial contracts FIFA had, even though the country has made alcohol and homosexuality illegal. Qatar has now relegated Budweiser to only be sold in certain designated places, but all of them outside the stadiums. So this World Cup began mired in controversy, since Qatar is a very wealthy, oil-rich country, but is hosting a highly westernized sport where the culture permits alcohol sales and doesn't ban any form of personal lifestyle. When a country like Qatar hosts an event like this, it's interesting to see the clash of culture. Qatar wants to boost its image, aka sports washing, but just pulled a major brouhaha when it banned one of FIFA's biggest sponsors from selling its product in its 8 stadiums. That's a huge loss and a major breach of contract. But it's not even Qatar I want to talk about today, although it sets up this show quite nicely given the cultural differences. Team USA, which has tied its first 2 games, faced a must-win game when it played Iran on November 29th. Regardless of how the game turned out, it doesn't change the barrage of questioning that Iranian journalists had for USA's coach Greg Berhalter and team captain Tyler Adams. Rather than focusing on the game ahead, Iranian journalists decided to hijack the press conference and ask about things that have nothing to do with the imminent game or soccer itself. Let's set the scene here. Prior to the match, the U.S. Soccer Federation posted Iran's national flag on social media without the Islamic Republic's emblem, as a measure of support for anti-regime protests that have been going on ever since the death of Mahsa Amini, the young girl who was beaten and then died after she was determined to have worn her headscarf improperly by Iran's morality police. Now that sparked intense protest from both within Iran and in many other nations. I attended and covered an Iranian freedom rally in Miami. So, being the United States, it's clear that America and most nations do not support Iran's draconian laws and violations. The only people that do are probably Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who cut the deal to send heaps of our cash to Iran in exchange for a few prisoners and supposedly a drawdown of nuclear weapon proliferation. But that deal was horrific, and we ended up losing on it. It was one of the worst international deals the United States has ever engaged in, other than maybe NAFTA or any deal with China prior to 2016. So, okay, the U.S. Soccer Federation, which is not the official American team itself, tried to make a statement by not including the Iranian regime's emblem. This caused Iran's government to call on FIFA to expel the American team. Imagine that. A regime that throws gay people off of roofs and persecutes women for improper scarf wearing wants Team USA kicked out of the World Cup because they don't support Iran's draconian regime. Rather, they support the people of Iran who want freedom. This is why you see flags and slogans that say women, life, freedom. So for Iran to get the U.S. team kicked out of the World Cup would be quite rich. But that merely began this latest scuffle. At the recent press conference for the upcoming game, Iranian journalists began a total non-soccer related inquisition. And I want to play portions of it so that you get an idea of what went on. This was the second question the men faced, and it was from an Iranian outlet.
My name is Abbas Mouredi. I am from Sahwat program. Tomorrow, perhaps, it's going to be the most sensitive game of this COP. If you think that we make a survey in the whole world, what percentage of the population of the world will be happy because of the win of the national team of Iran, and what percentage of the whole population of the world will be happy if the United States soccer team wins?
Yeah. I suppose that's it. Who's it for? Okay. Who is it from your town? Okay. When I think about this match, I know that, a lot of other constituents have, another feeling towards it. But for us, it's a soccer game against a good team. And it's not much more than that. It's a knockout game. Both teams want to go to the next round. Both teams are desperate to go to the next round. And that's how we're looking at this match. We're very focused on what we could do as a team, as are they. And we think it's going to be a soccer game.
Okay, so the second question right out of the gate is, what percentage of the world will be happy if Iran wins or if the USA wins? That's a dumb question. I would have just said pass and moved on. But the coach handled it diplomatically. The so-called journalist was trying to make the question one of political favoritism. And the third question was actually from a Swedish outlet. Take a look.
A question for Tyler. What was your view when the US Federation put out this flag to support the regime critics in Iran? And how will you look at this game, since there are so many things happening outside the pitch?
Listen, we support Iran's people and Iran's team. But that being said, we're laser focused on this match, as they are as well. We know how important this is for our progress of our team and what we want to do to prove to our country. We've been working, and we know they want to do exactly the same.
It seems that the U.S. team was unaware of what the U.S. Soccer Federation was doing. So the team and coaches did not post that flag. And then the following question got even testier.
Hello, hi. Tyler, this question is for you. My name is Mila Javamardi from Press TV. First of all, you say you support the Iranian people, but you're pronouncing our country's name wrong. Our country is named Iran, not Iran. Please, once and for all, let's get this clear. Second of all, are you okay to be representing a country that has so much discrimination against black people in its own borders? And we saw the Black Lives Matter movement over the past few years. Are you okay to be representing the US? Meanwhile, there's so much discrimination happening against black people in America.
My apologies on the mispronunciation of your country. That being said, there's discrimination everywhere you go. One thing that I've learned, especially from living abroad in the past years and having to fit in different cultures and kind of assimilate into different cultures, is that in the U.S. we're continuing to make progress every single day. Growing up for me, I grew up in a white family with obviously an African American heritage and background as well. So I had a little bit of different cultures, and I was very very easily able to assimilate in different cultures. So not everyone has that ease and the ability to do that, and obviously it takes longer to understand. And through education, I think it's super important. Like you just educated me now on the pronunciation of your country. So. It's a process. I think as long as you see progress, that's the most important thing.
That was a terrible question, but a masterful answer. For one thing, the reporter tries to scold Adams for his pronunciation in a demeaning way. But then it's a baited and highly ironic question about discrimination. This Iranian reporter has the nerve to question Adams about discrimination when his own country persecutes and even still kills people based upon discrimination. But Adams handles it so well. He talks about discrimination being everywhere without targeting the obvious Iran, and says as long as we are moving forward and progressing, then that is what matters. I applaud Adams for handling this question so well in a way that we all can support. He's probably a lot nicer about it than most of us would be. It's interesting that the Iranian reporter talks about BLM protests, but makes no mention of the protests happening in his own country, and even within the United States, regarding the abuses of the Iranian regime and the Ayatollah. And even though the next question they fielded went back to the matchup, the Iranian reporters cannot help but get away from sports and go political again. Listen.
Why is it that you do not ask your government to take away its military fleet from the Persian Gulf? My technical question is this. Queiroz has worked in Real Madrid, in Manchester, and also in the United States. This experience of Carlos Queiroz is not something that frightens you vis-a-vis the Iranian team?
No, I agree. Sport is something that should together, bring countries together. When you look at the Olympics, to see all those countries competing at the same time is a wonderful event. The World Cup is very similar, where people come from all around the world, fans come from all around the world, and you get to compete on the field, as brothers. So sport does have the ability to do that. Regarding Carlos Queiroz and his experience, all I could say is that he's a wonderful coach. It's been great to see his stations along the way. He actually worked for the United States for a period of time. Was very helpful in trying to decode some of our youth development, and I'm very grateful for him, and certainly someone that I can learn from personally.
So this guy asks about why the U.S. still has ships in the Persian Gulf. The coach, again, diplomatically answers that sports should bring people together, which is ironic because it's clear the reporters are doing the opposite of that. The coach gets a question about the team's preparation, and he says that they are focused and not distracted. He says that the real distraction is right there in that press room with these incessant questions that are not about the game.